A couple of months ago, I ended up having a really interesting conversation with someone that I didn't expect to meet. I was watching my girlfriend do her High Rocks doubles event, and I didn't know the girl that she was doing the event with at the time, but she ended up bringing her own partner, and me and him hit it off and ended up talking and having a really interesting and deep conversation while watching them do their High Rocks doubles for over an hour. And I took a lot away from that conversation. He's a very interesting and successful person in his own right, and I wanted to sort of chat about that and some of the biggest lessons I took away from that conversation. So this lad's name is Luke. Luke, if you're watching this, thank you for that conversation. So what Luke does is he essentially helps people create and nurture their own personal brands. And he does this with a variety of different ways. He takes portrait photos of them that are stylized to help convey their personal brands to people. He does videos of them. He does big, bios of them as well. And he's very successful, and he also works with a very wide range of successful people. He works with athletes, he works with people in business, he works with people in tech, a whole wide range of successful people. And we end up talking, and I asked him a few questions because in my head this was someone who's worked with people that are at the top of their game. The big question that I asked that was the catalyst to the lessons that I then learned was, what is the biggest trait that you see in the people that are the most successful in their field? And he actually paused for quite a while and then gave me a really, really insightful answer to that question. And he said there's two things that he consistently sees in people who do really well, whether that's someone who's a star athlete, whether it's someone who has a really successful business, is really good at sales, etc., etc. The first thing that he sees in these people is that they are people of high agency. He just calls them high agency. And the second trait that he sees in these people is that they have something called reverse charisma. And I'm going to chat to you a little bit about what those two things are and why I think they're such an important thing for us to understand and maybe take on board and try and develop in ourselves. So the first thing that he talked about was these people had a trait of high agency. What is high agency? Well, he ended up sending me a document on this, and I'll put the document in the description below. The way that this article describes his personality trait is, it gives an example of, let's say that you were in a third world country and ended up getting put into a prison cell, but you had one free phone call to make before getting locked into this. Now, instantly when I've said that, you've probably came up with that one person in your head that you would call. It might be a parent, it might be a friend. The only thing is that this person is someone of very high agency. You've called this person because you know that they've got that thing, that drive, that if you tell them about the situation that you're in, they're going to do everything in their power to try and help you get out of that situation. And that's someone who is of high agency. A high agency person is someone that goes against the norm, somebody that doesn't conform to groupthink and follows the track that everybody else is on. They are people that might have a weird interest or hobby. They're people that, and this is something that the document says again, someone who has treadmill energy. Someone that you can go to when you're tired and defeated and feel like shit, and just by having that one conversation with them, suddenly you feel like you've got so much more energy and you're ready to go again. They're people where you can never really guess their opinion on something unless you really ask it. It can be someone who might be really into, say fighting, but also does a load of poetry. It could be some kind of beauty pageant queen who studies philosophy in her spare time. You can never really guess what their hobbies and interests are. Their beliefs and thoughts don't really line up with their stereotype. Another good example that this document has is that high agency people are someone who've got that immigrant mentality. And if you meet someone who's maybe moved away from their hometown, or better yet, their home country, that's a good sign of them having this high agency trait, especially if they're doing well. It takes high agency to recognize that maybe you're in a tricky spot, maybe you don't have the resources that you want available to you, maybe you're not in the right environment for yourself, and then to take action and go and change that. And that's another big thing that these high agency people do on a consistent basis. They take action. You've got a problem, they've got a problem. They never really sit there and ponder on it. They try and solve it immediately. They don't procrastinate on it. Another trait of high agency people is that they ask a lot of questions. They'll never just take one answer at face value. They'll always ask why, and they'll ask how, and they'll ask what. They refuse to just passively listen and accept the thing that you're saying. They've always got to find out the things that happen beneath that. The last trait that a lot of high agency people have is that they're self-taught in a lot of things. Think about people who are self-taught in music, self-taught in business, finances, all that type of thing. And they maybe had a problem, or they just had something they wanted to get better at, and instead of just sitting there with that dream in their head of wanting to get better than it, they've actually got up and done that thing. They've done the thing. The document that I've got right here describes 3 distinct skills that somebody with high agency always has. They've always got these 3 skills. So the first skill is clear thinking, the ability to think clearly, and I guess if you've got a goal in your head, fixate on that and focus on it. Second skill is bias to action. We've already talked about this one. They're the types of people that take action straight away when they've got an issue, when they've got a problem. And the third skill is disagreeability. We've already talked about that, but just to explain it in a little bit more, these aren't the types of people that would just agree with whatever the social norm is. If they hear something, instead of just accepting it as the truth, they ask questions. Maybe they don't agree with it, they state their own opinion. So how do you develop high agency? Well, it's said that the standard for everyone, the factory default setting for all of us, is low agency. Typically people are very agreeable and go with the social norms in order to avoid being looked down upon or avoid judgment from people. So I guess the first step that's actually quite easy to get into is do the things that you say that you're going to do. How many of you out there have said to yourselves, oh, this year I'm going to get in really good shape? I'm a personal trainer. This is the one I hear all the time, right? Or how many of you out there have said that you're going to start looking after your finances, or that you want to start learning a different language, playing a new instrument? Now these are quite extreme examples and I completely understand that. So we can take it down a level. We can say to ourselves, I'm going to send that really important email with a deadline tonight. Now you've spoken that into existence, but after that you go ahead and do it. You do it straight away. That is high agency, and that's something that is so simple and so easy to do that sometimes we can fool ourselves into thinking it's a bigger thing than what it is. One of the last important things I want to talk about when it comes to people with high agency, or a trait that people with high agency have that I found was really, really insightful, was the mindset of unless it goes against the laws of physics, it's not impossible. And this one is so huge because it plays into that action taken, it plays into that agency to be able to tackle anything. It's a great mindset to have. The human brain is a question and answering machine. If you ask it what's good in my life, it'll find answers. If you ask it what's bad in my life, it'll find answers. Now when faced with a problem, ask your brain, does this problem defy the laws of physics? It will reply with no, and then it will begin generating ludicrous ways that that thing could be possible. Asking your brain this question will wipe your mental whiteboard around the problem and knocks on the door of your sleeping creativity. And that's fantastic. I think it's such a good way of looking at things. Again, if you're met with any type of problem, rather than having this defeatist attitude about it, go against the grain, okay? Think to yourself, no, how can I solve this problem? Think of all them ludicrous ways, think of all them creative ways that you could do it, no matter how stupid it sounds in your head. Try and come up with different problem solving activities. One of the things that I did when I got back home from talking with Luke is I started writing in my diary, my journal. And while I was writing things down, I was writing down every person that I know or have known in the past that I would have considered a high agency person. And I wrote down some stories that I know of them people, some things that have happened in my life with them people, and the traits that I've just called out there, them high agency traits, came up over and over and over again. And it really just makes you take a step back and appreciate that person more for a start, but then understand that these people aren't successful just by luck. They're successful because of the traits they have and because of the agency that they have to get shit done. So that's high agency. The second one that we talked about, reverse charisma. We all have this mindset that we want to be charismatic. We want to be that person that's confident, that walks into a room and everybody stops and looks and is like, wow, I want to be like them. That's charisma. That's having charisma. That's having confidence. Now, reverse charisma is being a person that if somebody talks to you, after that conversation, they feel like that person. Does that make sense? So rather than you being the one that everybody looks at and is like, wow, look at the confidence, you're the person that after meeting you gives them that confidence, makes them feel like that charismatic, confident person. That is what reverse charisma is. And when he explained it like this, it made perfect sense, because that was actually the vibe that he was giving me. I was getting G'd up just talking to this guy. If you're someone who's got reverse charisma or always very good at reverse charisma, you're the person that after speaking to you, somebody feels great, they feel confident, they feel ready to attack and tackle anything. And I think some really interesting examples of people who have a high aptitude for reverse charisma are the really good coaches that you see out there, sport coaches, the really good mentors that you got out there. These are the types of people that they're so good at what they do, being a teacher, being a mentor, that it's hard not to feel great after speaking to them. And I think one of the main standout points that someone who has reverse charisma has is the want to help people. They want to help people out, they want to see people do well, they want people to feel good about themselves, and that's what separates someone with reverse charisma from someone who is just charismatic and confident. If you want to help people, if you give people value, if you give them your honest opinion on things, then you're someone who's got reverse charisma. And again, this is another one of those things that when you sit down tonight, or maybe you're journaling, you can think about some examples of some people that you've met who have reverse charisma. They might not have been the loudest person in the room, they might not have been the most talkative or confident person in the room, they might have some of these traits, but the main takeaway that you have from talking to these people is you feel good about yourself after. And this is something that Luke said is really important when it comes to successful people, especially in business, people who run really good businesses, is they're able to create that working environment through that reverse charisma. I mean, think about it, right? Are you more likely to work harder for a boss who every time you talk to them makes you feel like shit? Or are you more likely to work harder for a boss who every time you talk to them, they make you feel like you could run through fire, or they make you feel really good about yourself, or they compliment you? It's going to be that second person that you're willing to work that little bit extra for. And that's what creates a great working environment, and that's why all these people that Luke works with are so successful in what they do. So they're the two things I took away from that conversation, and ever since I've been trying to apply them to my own life. I think it's especially relevant in my job, especially the reverse charisma thing. It made me look at my job as a personal trainer, as a coach, in a whole new perspective. I already know that the whole purpose of my job is to help people feel better about themselves. But now I've got that extra bit in my head where whenever I have a client come into the gym and train with me, I want to make it my job, and I want to try my hardest that that client leaves the gym feeling energized, feeling like they could walk on water, feeling like they could tackle any job that they've got or any task that they've got that day with full confidence. And since I've been applying that mindset to my work, I found that the results that my client have been 100 times better. I already got good results with my clients, but since applying the methodology of wanting to always have that reverse charisma and always wanting to do more and more by them, again, it's just rubbed off, and I feel like I now give off that energy, I give off that aura and vibe where people look forward to having sessions with me, and that in turn can help with other things like retention. Even though that's not the number one goal, the goal is to help them out, it automatically just helps with stuff like client retention and getting new people in through the door. When people see you training someone and they see that person smiling, laughing, having a bit of banter, and then leaving with a smile on the face, and maybe it's a few months later looking in really, really good shape after the fact, they're gonna want, that other person's gonna want to train with you. It's a fact. And with the high agency thing, I think this one's a little bit more difficult to apply to your life, because it's really hard if you're already not that person, that as soon as you've got your thought or a problem in your head, you go out and solve it. It's hard to sort of train your mind to become that person. But the way I look at it is start small. Start with them little things like sending that email and getting that essay written up if you're a student as soon as possible, not leaving things to the last minute. You know, as soon as someone asks you to do something, you go ahead and do it. Small things like that can slowly build to bigger things, like, oh, I want to get in shape this summer. That's a big thing. But if you've already built this habit of having high agency and doing what you say you're going to do straight away and not going back on your word, then these bigger things are going to be a lot easier to then go out and do.